Hey, welcome to the Heme Consults video orientation series. I'm Teresian Wimana, and today I'm talking to you about before you begin, what to do. When I started my fellowship, I did not think that my first year of fellowship would be as bad or worse than intern year, but it absolutely was. It was one of the worst years of my training experience ever. And I made it through. You will make it through too. One of the things I think I wish I had known before I started was that I had a chance to do it differently. I think one of the things that made it so bad is that I just didn't know what was coming. And it came at me really fast. And I didn't always know what tools to use to really manage my experience. What I wish I had known is that I could lead my experience so that I could have a different experience. So while everybody else was reporting burnout, I could report something different. This video is an opportunity so that you don't have the worst experience over the course of your first year, especially not on the Heme Consult service. So I'm going to tell you about 7 things to do before you start on the Heme Consults service. The first thing is to find the bathrooms. This seems really silly and intuitive, but what I really mean is really not about the bathrooms. So you should find the bathrooms as soon as you can. But it's like, where are all the places you need to know? What are the things you need to know about before your first day on the consult service? So find the room where we round, find out how to work the microscope, figure out cell-o-vision, make sure you have it, make sure you know the number to the hematopathology team, make sure that you have the number to the coag lab, make sure you know who the pharmacists are, who the sickle cell rounding team people are. Make sure you have access to all the information that you need to help you win on your first day. Now, are you going to remember everything that you figured out? No, but it'll be familiar and you won't be starting from scratch and you won't have that deer in the headlights look of someone who has no idea what's going on. So first things first, find the bathrooms. The second thing I think that's important is to state your intention. Now, this is important because many times in our training, we're just going through. We're like, okay, Heme Consults is next. I'm going to check that box. But I want you to think about it differently. I want you to think about what Heme Consults is going to give you that you wouldn't otherwise have without doing Heme Consults. What do you want to have at the end of 4 weeks of the rotation that you don't already have? And that's important to give some thought, and it's important to be very clear about what that is. State your intention. At the end of 4 weeks, I want to have X, Y, Z. You get to state your intention, and it helps you make sure that no matter what happens in the rotation, you're focused on how you want to win. Okay, you're an oncologist. What does Heme Consults do for you? What do you need to know at the end of your Heme Consults rotation that will make you the best oncologist there is? Maybe you're going to be a malignant hematologist. What do you need to know in Heme Consults that helps you shine as a malignant hematologist? Or perhaps you're going to be a benign hematologist. Whatever you're going to be, there is something that you need to get at the end of the Heme Consult service. You should define what that is. You should set your intention. The third thing I think is helpful to do is to clarify expectations. How many consults am I supposed to see in a day? What is the turnaround time for returning pages? Is it 10 minutes? Is it 15? Is it 30? What is the expectation? When do I need to leave my bed and come into the hospital in the middle of the night? Under what circumstances? What patients do I absolutely need to see and leave a consult note? And what patients can I just write a brief plan of care note? Clarify all those expectations up front so that you know exactly what to expect and you're not surprised by people saying, well, you should have done that, and you had absolutely no idea. Then the other piece that's important is to make your own expectations clear. How do you learn best? What is the environment that helps you thrive as a Heme Consults fellow? How did you thrive as a resident? And maybe that's something you didn't give much thought to. But for example, are you okay if the attending is yelling at you? I hope attendings don't yell, but sometimes they still might. And even if the attendings don't yell, some people might yell over the phone when they're calling a consult and they're really anxious and worried and afraid. What are your expectations for how you will lead your experience and what you will tolerate and what you will not tolerate? For example, if yelling is a no-no from someone calling a consult, then you want to make that clear to yourself so that when someone starts getting harried, you take a moment and say, wow, it seems like you're very angry, but it's hard for me to hear you when you're yelling. Having a plan allows you to be ready to handle the situation when it comes across. Having expectations also helps you give your expectations to your attending so your attending knows what you expect of them to facilitate your learning. Because at the end of the day, if you don't own your learning strategy, no one else is really going to do it for you. And at the end of the day, you'll learn a bunch of things being on the Heme Consult service, but clarify your expectations for yourself of the things that you absolutely want to learn and make sure that you see throughout the consults rotation. The next thing you want to do is to define the circumstances that best aid your learning. So some people are okay with a barrage of consults coming in all day and then learning on the fly about each patient. Some people need to go home, have some downtime, and then think critically about each patient for the day. You know how you learn best. The most important piece of this rotation is that you're learning. Yes, the patient will get the care that is needed. Patient is important, and the patient will still get taken care of, whether you are here or not, whether you learn anything or not. And that's why I would like you to prioritize your own learning, because if you don't prioritize it, nobody else will prioritize it for you. So define the circumstances that best aid your learning so that you can optimize your environment, optimize your experience so that you can get the maximum learning out of this rotation. The next thing you should do is find the curriculum. The ABIM is very clear about what knowledge you need to have to pass the hematology certification exam. That's assuming you're going to take it. The American Society of Hematology is also very clear about what are the things you need to know in benign hematology at the end of your rotation. So you don't want to find that out after the rotation is over. You want to read through that before you start the rotation so that you can clarify what you're learning as you're learning it. And you can be clear about what objectives you've met as the rotation is going on. So what I like to recommend is that you have a list and you're able to put a check by any patient you've seen who fits that criteria and that you've read up on and you feel confident that you've learned enough in that area. So definitely clarify what the curriculum is. It's clear, it's written down. You want to know what it is so that when you are hitting the learning milestones, then you know that you are. And then you might not have to put in too much reading for the in-training exam because you've already been doing it all along. So make sure you know the curriculum and make sure that you're going through and figuring out where the gaps are that still need to be filled. The final thing I want you to do before you start is to plan for your win. The Heme Consults rotation is really about you. It is for you, and it helps you win as you're building your brand, as you're figuring out who you're going to be as a hematologist oncologist. And ultimately, if you don't win, nobody else wins, really. Actually, we win whether you're here or not. The patient wins whether you're here or not, because they'll always find someone else to help the patient. But if you don't maximize your learning on this rotation, you might not win. But our goal is to make sure that you're thinking about how you win so that you build the rotation in such a way that no matter what happens, you will always win. So I invite you to take the time to think about your intention for the Heme Consult service. What is the number one thing you want to have at the end of the rotation that you don't already have when you're starting out? What would it be like if you could be very clear about your learning goals for every service? How different would your experience be when you know you're learning exactly what you need to be learning and you know exactly where the gaps are? I think that would be pretty cool. And I invite you to do that on the Heme Consult service. I'll see you in the next video.